Well, this is awkward.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp is the 20th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the follow-up to 2015's Ant-Man. Following the events of Captain America's Civil War, Scott Lang, Ant-Man, is put on house arrest and estranged from Hope and Hank Pym. But when Hank invents a powerful new piece of technology, Scott must partner with Hope, the Wasp, and become Ant-Man once again to keep the technology out of the wrong hands. As a huge fan of the MCU, this was of course one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, and when he didn't appear in Avengers Infinity War, I started to get a little bit antsy waiting to find out how exactly would he play into the larger picture and how would this movie tie into everything. So does it live up to the hype? Well, that's a tall order for our little friends, but I'm happy to say that this movie, like the first movie, is a nice light-hearted adventure with plenty of ant-ticks. Okay, I'll stop with the ant puns, at least for right now. This will be a spoiler-free review, so I won't give away any plot points besides the basic premise and some of the stuff that's shown within the trailers. With that said, go ahead and tell me down below in the comment section, did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between on the movie? I'd love to have a nice lively discussion with you. With that said, let's get started. So one of the absolute best things about this movie is what I just said, that it's just a light-hearted, fun adventure. It's not pretentious. It's not trying to be the biggest or the grandest or the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just trying to be another good, fun ride to go along, and it delivers on that. Very much like the first movie, it's got a really nice sense of humor coming from Paul Rudd, cranky Michael Douglas, and then just the antics and high energy of Michael Pena. Just all of it populates the movie with characters you like to be around that have great chemistry, that put a smile on your face. It's also a much smaller scale movie, and not just in the punny sense, but the stakes in this movie are personal, they're relational, they tie to individuals. It's not about saving a city, let alone the world or the universe in general. And so when you compare this movie to Infinity War, the stakes feel very ant-sized. Another thing I enjoyed about this movie is it's a different type of movie. So the first Ant-Man is often called the heist movie of the MCU, and this movie is more of a MacGuffin movie. And what I mean by that is a MacGuffin is an item in a movie that characters are trying to get. And so in this movie, there's an item that a bunch of different people are trying to acquire, and so it's like them chasing around this item and it's going back and forth between people, and that's a different type of story for the MCU that just makes it interesting and unique inside of this universe. We also get all sorts of fun new Ant-Man-esque technology and experiences. There's some new things done with the Ant-Man suit itself. You've got Ghost kind of doing this phasing effect, as well as the quantum realm kind of brought into it. And so you get to see some new types of things that once again gives it its own little flavor. Without wanting to spoil anything, this movie does have some flashbacks with the de-aging effect being used in it, and it looks better than ever. I didn't notice anything that felt off to me. I was just kind of blown away at how much it looked like they'd taken these actors and sent them back decades. It was really quite phenomenal. As usual, you've got a Stan Lee cameo in here. This one definitely made me laugh out loud. But really the thing that pulls this movie all together is the great cast. All the MCU movies have a great cast, and this movie is no exception. So the two people kind of taking the lead on this one, of course, are Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly, and they have a great relationship and rapport between the two of them that's aged as the movie takes place several years later, and so it has different dynamics to it. The two characters do a really nice job of balancing each other out. In many ways, Hope, with her background and her intelligence and her motivations, is designed and crafted to be Scott's antithesis. Michael Douglas, Lawrence Fishburne, and Michelle Pfeiffer bring a sense of respectability to a movie that can dabble in the silly at times, and they just kind of elevate the material quite a bit. Douglas is crankier and funnier than he was before. They find so many different scenarios to just kind of put him as annoyed with all the other younger characters in the movie. And this movie does find a way to try and kind of top the Michael Pena storytelling from the first movie. They find some ways to kind of take it to the next level of energy, speed, and ADHD storytelling. It's quite funny what they find him to do in this movie with his character. And also, I'll just kind of mention this, there are 2 post-credit scenes with this movie, so stick around all the way to the very end. With that said, let's start talking about the mixed aspects of this movie. And one of the big things that comes to mind with the way the story is designed, the movie doesn't really have a main antagonist. I promise I'm almost done with the ant puns. But so since the movie is all about these different groups trying to get the MacGuffin, there is definitely tension, there's conflict, there's stakes, there's urgency at different points in time, but there's not like a main villain that has an evil scheme that's trying to blow up a city or something like that. And so this makes for a very interesting kind of dynamic inside the movie, as normally in a superhero movie, someone's trying to blow up a building, kidnap someone, steal something in a big major way to do something evil with it. And that's just not really the case with this movie. So that's interesting and unique, but it also, I don't know, it felt like there wasn't maybe a little bit too lighthearted at times because there wasn't anyone that we're against. And I was even trying to think, Marvel at times has been known to have a villain problem. And I was trying to think, does that really apply to this movie? Because the nature of the story, there's intentionally not like a main big bad super evil villain. Does that mean it has the villain problem, or just does it mean has kind of interesting storytelling with the direction that they decided to go with some things? Also, there's a couple characters in the movie that at times it feels like the movie's trying to present them as villain-esque characters or antagonist characters, but it's more that they have complex value sets that are in conflict with our main characters, and not that either one of them are necessarily right or wrong. And so that's interesting. That's good to have complex motivations, but it makes it tricky with the way that they're used in the movie. You're like, I don't think those are actually villains, but you're trying to convince me that they are villains. With that said, let's move on to the negative of this movie. The main negative on this movie is it definitely felt light on action, especially compared to what was shown in the trailer and what I thought they might be able to do in light of what they showed at the trailer. Felt very anticlimactic. Okay, I promise that's the actual last ant pun in here. But so like the giant man effect, it's definitely used in the movie a good bit, the different size and everything, but it felt like it was used more for laughs than it was for action. Another issue with the movie is that it felt like illogical communication drove too much of the plot of the movie. What I mean by that is it felt like at times that if different characters had just teamed up with each other rather than being in conflict with each other, they both could have accomplished their purposes much easier. They had certain shared values and they had certain values that were in conflict, but if they'd worked together, it seemed like everything would have been better and more likely to be successful for more people. But because it was a movie and because they had to be in conflict, they just decided to add tension into the movie. And so that seemed like a little bit of a cheat in how they decided to make certain elements fit together. Just a few more quick negatives on this one. At the beginning of the movie, there's some themes that are established and then repeated in the first half of the movie that it felt like they just kind of abandoned in the second half of the movie. As you go into the conclusion, there's an element that definitely felt like it was a bit of a deus ex machina conclusion. I always mispronounce that word, but what that means is that the way it plays out, it felt like something was just kind of happened that was random, not based off the decisions of our main characters. A plot point's just resolved because something's just able to happen. And that's never a good way to resolve the movie. It feels like cheating rather than earning the conclusion that we come to. And one final thing, I did see it in 3D on an IMAX screen, and there wasn't anything for me there. I'm not generally speaking a 3D fan. This one in particular just felt like I had glasses on that was making it feel funny in my eyes, but there wasn't a bunch of cool 3D shots in the movie or anything like that. Overall, much like the first Ant-Man, this movie's not trying to be a home run. It's not trying to be the best MCU movie. It's just trying to get on base, and it does that. So I'd score this movie a B, and on an entertainment level, I'd go with 8 out of 10 for this movie. Anyway, there you have it. That's my review of the movie. How about you? What did you think about it? Tell me down below in the comment section. Did you love it? Did you hate it? All that fun stuff. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, lots of Marvel content on my channel, and a bunch coming up over the next couple of weeks. If you've already clicked that subscribe button, consider ringing that bell so you get notifications whenever I post a new video. But the key thing is, I don't want to just talk about movies, I want to talk about movies with you. So join me down in the comment section. Let's have a lively discussion. And as always, thank you so much for watching.